It's either live.
And it says we are live, which means we're live. Good morning from Arizona, where I am. I'm Alan Levine, and I am a host for Virtually Connecting, which is what do we call it? It's a series. It's the thing started by Maha Bali in Cairo, Egypt, and Rebecca Hogue to help bring conference experiences to people who aren't at the conference. And so we have a group of folks this morning from the Digital Pedagogy Lab up in Madison, Wisconsin, who are going to share a little bit about what's going on. They only have 15 minutes, and we also have with us Nick Kearney from the UK, and we can stick around a little bit longer if you want to talk some more about what they talk about, Nick.
Sure.
But we only have a little bit of time, so we will try to skip the introductions where you tell us where you're born and your PhD, etc., and to give, of course, a chance for the people to talk. This is my first time getting to host a Virtual Buddy conference. I've been on the other end. Apparently, it's the first time someone of my gender has hosted. This is some kind of big deal, and so the pressure is pretty intense. So I'm going to ask folks, since I think identity is a track, I was thinking about like the first or most unusual identity online that you've ever had. And so I will say, well, I'll throw in two. In Second Life, I was a dog, and my very first logon name was AGAHL at Arizona State University. And so we'll flip it over to the folks at Wisconsin to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Andrea Wren. I am the Virtually Connecting Buddy in Wisconsin for this hangout, and to answer your question, my oddest identity online, I don't know if this is the oddest, but I started my professional bio the first time I put up a website by admitting that I was born in the backseat of a Dodge Dart, and that has picked up some traction. So, yes, now I've increased that traction.
Hi, I'm Ann Cohen, or Anita Conchita on Twitter, and I'm the digital scholar at Whittier College where I work with Andrea. And I guess my weirdest identity online might be my Dragon Slayer character from Diablo, where I play online with some friends.
Hi everyone, I'm Adeline Ko, and I'm the one running the identity track. I teach at Stockton University. Andrea and Ann are in my track, which I'm really grateful about. And my oddest, I don't really have a lot of odd identities online because I just represent myself as myself, but in the 90s when everybody was using IRC and everything, I used to like go on as a guy quite often.
Oh, that's very appropriate for today's topic. I want to hear more about that.
I'm Chris Schaffer. I teach music theory at CU Boulder, and I'm in the Praxis track. So I don't have a good online weird identity. I mean, I guess the closest thing is that I tweet on behalf of a conference that I just held in music pedagogy, and so the handle is FlipCampMT, Flip Camp Music Theory, and the picture is multiple Lego Star Wars stormtroopers standing around a grand piano.
I like that. And Nick.
Hi. I work in education here in the UK, focus on yoga at the moment. My oddest identity, I think, was when I went in Second Life, I deliberately tried to be as ugly and insignificant as possible to see how people would react, because everybody was so beautiful in Second Life. And it wasn't very successful. Everyone ignored me. But that was right.
There was someone I remember was like a giant big baby or something like that. They were huge, but let's not talk about Second Life anymore. So what's going on today at DigPed?
So what we've been doing is we want to get something concrete and usable out of this week. So after a lot of discussions, we've split into 3 different groups, and each different group is designing a comprehensive activity that can be used in any learning kind of setting. One group's working on social justice, that's Anne and Andrea's group. There's another group working on accessibility, and there's another group working on safe spaces.
That's nice.
They worked on the assignment. They were intensely working on the assignment yesterday. We're going to take the morning to continue working on the assignment, and in the afternoon we're going to present and get feedback from one another.
And this is within your track, or
It's in my track, yes. And if anybody is interested in looking at what we're doing, you can go to our webpage, which is digitalpedagogylab.com/identity. And the header menu will contain links to everything that we've been working on. We've come up with some really useful things that we've found, such as guidelines for giving feedback, guidelines to take part in community discussion. So that might be interesting of use to other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at a conference and you're actually creating something. I like that a lot.
And we're trying.
And Chris, you're the embedagogue for the Praxis track. Could you tell us what those two words are?
That sounds like a scripted line, but I love the question.
I mean, it's actually not.
You keep using that word, praxis. So in the Praxis track, where it's not about tools. We've talked about a lot of tools. The idea here is to bring theory and practice together. So we, for example, yesterday morning went through a list of questions that I believe Jesse had put together that were questions to help interrogate the ideology and the pedagogical implied directions for different technologies. So we were in groups and looking up everything that we could find about the tool, the choices it allowed and didn't allow, what kind of identity did you have to use it, did you need a real name or not, was it verified or not, what were the politics of the people who created it, what was the difference between what their marketing said and what it actually did, because a lot of people just parrot the marketing when they talk about the tools that they use. And so that was really cool. And we've been looking at some bell hooks and Peter Elbow, and we'll look at some Paulo Freire later, and yeah, just kind of pulling that stuff into some specific practical settings. Embedagogue is embedded pedagogue. It's a way of making a faculty member at a university into a TA without making them feel bad. I don't know. It's essentially I'm the teaching assistant, but because Sean likes secrets and Jesse likes surprises, I have no idea what's going on until after we've done it. So I'm there. I'm being helpful.
Just to say, I just got on Twitter. There's somebody else. AK would like to join the Hangout. Alan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I will give him the thing. So keep on talking while I manipulate all this.
And it looks like Nick Carney wants to know that link again.
Yes.
Yeah.
digitalpedagogylab.com/identity.
Okay. Thank you.
Anne, would you like to tell us your experience of Digital Pedagogy Lab or anything?
Yeah, so it's been pretty interesting because we're actually in a similar boat, I guess, in our track. There's a lot of overlap. So we're not talking about tools too much. Oh, we did do a really brief tool parade. That's the word.
We've used that term as well.
So we've been doing a lot of intensive group work.
Mm-hmm.
And our group is the social justice group. So we're trying to come up with an assignment that we can use in a lot of different settings to teach students about social justice and to enact social justice.
Yes.
So our idea is that we can teach students to interrogate open data sets, especially because large cities in the U.S. have like open data projects that the city itself is putting out. And this way they can do visualizations that take the data sets and put it onto a map. And then also part of the assignment will ask students to think about where the data comes from, who's collecting the data, what are the gaps in the data, where are other places you can look for data. And we're still working on this right now. I missed the afternoon yesterday, so I need to catch up. Maybe Andrea can let you guys know what else he's been doing.
Yeah. We also started thinking about ways to. We got really excited about looking at a project online called The Thin Line. I'm sure many of you have seen it. It's we were looking through a list of various example projects of DH social justice problems or projects, not problems, and that list is available on Digo. It's called bit.ly/Digo DIIGO SOC, SOC, just, JUST, all one word and all lowercase.
Someone will tweet that out, I hope, because I can't follow it.
That was really long. I will tweet that. But
Thanks.
it's a list of social justice things available, and so we started thinking about how did they make that, taking inspiration from Miriam Posner's famous Wonderful post and trying to sort of backwards engineer how did they do that and how would we teach that in a class.
I was going to put that URL on the screen, but then it...
Okay. That's okay. Let's not get too fancy.
I'll tweet the hashtag for that right now to Virtually Connecting for anybody who's joining in.
Right. So how's the energy level today? You guys been going pretty intense. You got one more day?
Yeah, I think everybody is exhausted in a good way, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. My big exhaustion day was yesterday, and I think that led me to actually get some decent sleep last night. And I'm also I realized yesterday was kind of my peak, not acclimated to this elevation. I grew up around here, but I'm used to being at 5,000 plus feet now, and
that gives you an advantage. You can run marathons.
Well, yeah, except I've got this massive headache yesterday because it's high pressure weather at the same time, and I always used to get that when I lived at sea level. So coming from not sea level anymore.
We have another visitor.
Yeah, AK's here. Turn on your mic, man. Are you just watching?
Good morning. No, I just keep my mic muted in general just in case there's any environmental noise.
Oh, it's very considerate.
So I just jump in and say my oddest online identity, which I posted on Twitter, is I play an Andorian captain on Star Trek Online.
Nice.
You win. You win, totally. Not that there's any competition. What else? I mean, I'm not really been following the tracks because I'm not there, so that's why we're doing this. What's sort of the gist of the identity track? And where do you want to see it go after this week is done?
Jesse and Sean actually said that they found it a little bit ironic that I was teaching a track that could really just be all about theory and really abstract philosophical stuff, and I made it all about an objective, like creating something, and so they thought it was really funny and cool. They thought it was cool that something that's potentially so high-minded and abstract, I'm distilling it and trying to make us really do something with it. And I think that's kind of my philosophy behind the entire way in which I see the identity track, or my philosophy towards teaching, which is I love ideas. I've loved ideas for the longest time because ideas can help empower people, but they're not going to do any good if you don't actually put the ideas into practice and to try to use them. And so my attempt at putting my ideas into practice is manifest in the modeling and design of the track, which is trying to produce something, and it's also in the ways in which we try to, and we've created rules about how we want to engage with one another. Like, for example, yesterday we talked about how we should pay attention to who is not speaking in the group, pay attention to how much we are speaking, and if we speak a lot, maybe speak less. And we also, one of the members of our class, Andrew Casey, gave us the Occupy Wall Street hand signals, which you can kind of use to say that you're participating and you're in the conversation, but you don't necessarily need to verbalize anything, so to show that you're present, but you're not necessarily speaking. So that's all on our website too, if you would like to take a look at that. So
that's great.
So I think that the gist of the identity track for me, and I don't know whether it's come through to my participants, but the gist of the identity track is let's put really great social justice ideas into practice.
That's great, and it kind of follows up on your article on hybrid pedagogy about. I wanted to ask how the conference presentation went, where you were thinking about how to do activities or not.
Oh, yeah, I actually gave that presentation again here, because people wanted to have some kind of meat to sink themselves into, and so I did a whole lecture here, and we did the activity too, and I think that was actually really helpful when we did the activity in small groups here. People at Iliad's, people people were into it. I mean, it was a keynote schedule at 4:15, so that was the end of the day. People came in looking really tired, and I count it as a personal success that they left looking more energized and awake.
That is good. Although Stephen Downs didn't like it, but he doesn't like anything.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, not everybody's gonna like stuff. So
well, you didn't mention him, so that's the downfall. Other folks in the room, anything? I know you guys got to go pretty soon. What are you looking forward to today? You're sharing your workout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to share. Everybody's going to present their assignment. We're going to do each other's assignments, and then each group that's presenting the assignment will ask for specific feedback from the people who are taking the assignment, and then in the later part of the day we'll refine the assignment, and then tomorrow we'll try to publish them to the world.
This doesn't sound like a conference. What's going on? You guys are changing the whole model.
It's not. It's the Pedagogy Institute.
But you know, this is exactly the thing. Like when I was designing the conference, I thought to myself, I don't want to assume that I know way more about a digital identity or whatever than the participants in my track, because I have like these two awesome people in my track, and I'm like, I'm not going to distill any pearls of wisdom that I don't think both of you know already. And so I thought, what would be the coolest thing? The coolest thing is if I have people who know as much or more than me in the room who are similar-minded. Can we work on something and make something useful for other people to use and adapt and mix? And rather than just sit around and like, because I mean, I came from a comparative lit PhD program, which is all about sitting around and intellectually, and I'm a very pragmatic person. I'm like, let's put these ideas into practice. Let's try our best to do that. And that's why I thought the best thing to do. It's not, I don't want to sit around and listen to papers. I don't want to sit around and listen to fancy ideas being thrown around. I want us to develop something.
And certainly from the perspective of what we're doing in praxis, I mean, I say kind of tongue-in-cheek, it's not a conference, it's a pedagogy institute, but in the sense like thinking about what it means to ask our students to do some of the things that we ask them to do, having an experience of that ourselves is really helpful for guiding them through that. So if we're asking them to learn by doing, then we need to learn by doing. And in an online course that we did for hybrid pedagogy this summer on the flipped classroom, I asked the faculty who were in the class to do a lot of that, to put a lot of new and not yet polished ideas into a place where other people will look at it and critique it. And that was something that some said, you know what, I never realized what it meant to ask some of my students to do that, because it's not something that they're comfortable doing. It's not something I'm comfortable doing. But I also see the value in it, and now I need to know how can I help myself become comfortable with that, and then use that to help my students become comfortable with that, or see that maybe the downsides outweigh the value of that, and so rethink what we're asking them to do.
And I'm really sorry, but I've got
no, I see you moving. That's all good. Thanks for joining us. We'll stick around with Nick and AK, and we'll do the little post-game recap. But I have to say, I've been waiting for this kind of conference my entire career, and so I won't even call it a conference, but it's pretty exciting to know this is going on, and I would think it's not going to be the last.
Yeah. I hope not. Yeah. And speaking of being a student, I'm late to class.
You might get marked absent or something.
Need a hall pass.
All right.
Bye-bye.
We'll stay live. If you guys want to talk a bit, we sure. Can. It's still hard. I get a sense about what they're doing. I like that it's not the usual trip trap about identity and danger and issues of personal. They're talking more conceptual. But I mean, what do you guys sense of what's going on there?
I was interested when I saw the program, precisely because the social justice aspect of it is slightly unexpected. A lot of the time when people start talking about identity, they don't start there at all, and I thought that was refreshing and interesting. But I must say, in sort of 15 minutes, it's hard to get a an idea of what's really going on there. I was interested by what she was saying about silence, about people who are not participating actively in a group, how they are present and how they project identity. I'd like to have heard more about that.
Yeah, that's great. So, and it sounds like they're going to have some information about what they did, and and then you think about what happens, when you try to translate that, in this kind of space as well.
Yeah.
But even be attentive to that is something we're not used to doing.
I find it particularly interesting to work out how often it's surprising when I do quite a lot of blended courses where there is a part of the activity that is face-to-face, and how sometimes the people who online have not really been at all present in the usual modes, shall we say. They don't answer the questions you set out. They don't send messages out on Twitter, etc. But when they actually come face-to-face, they turn out to be much more active than and much more participative than you might think. And I'm interested in what ways are there to actually help those people to be more present, shall we say, online, when they clearly aren't happy with the modes that we're giving them, a kind of text-based interaction, or these kinds of hangouts. Some people take over and occupy the space, and other people sit back, kick back, and it's how to get to those people that is concerning me at the moment.
Yeah, it's hard. I've been in some, when you have 10 people, it's great, but in an hour, it's often hard to, you're balancing, am I talking too much? Am I not talking? And then just how you jump in. So there's a lot of delicacies that go on there.
This whole conversation actually reminded me of something that Maha wrote for hybrid pedagogy, the affinity for asynchronousness, I think is the title. And I actually associate with that a lot. I prefer mostly asynchronous. But in thinking about my own students, especially people who are designing online classes from scratch, it's their first experience being a designer for online courses. They really think that they can't do presence in an online environment. And it's this idea of thinking, well, what is presence? Like really deconstructing it, because we all come into the conversation having a preconceived notion based on our own experiences of what presence is. So trying to think about, well, what is presence and how can you accomplish that in an online environment such that in a class of 15, 20, 30 students, everybody feels fulfilled in some way.
Yeah, and I still maintain there's something that changes the energy when you know that you're live compared to, say, preparing a video or doing a podcast where you're going to polish it. The excitement of, what if things go wrong, but it's also the unexpected. But it's also the same way we converse when we're not, doing this through a screen. We don't sit, in a pub or a coffee shop with a script. We have this conversant presence.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is definitely, a small way to think about trying to weave that into a remote conference.
I actually like the format of this conference. I don't know about you, but in the past couple of years, I've kind of felt like whenever I go to a conference, I kind of feel a little bored sometimes because I don't feel like sitting in the audience listening to a speaker of any sort is engaging to me anymore. I don't feel like there are many new ideas. I feel like there's a rehash when there's a broadcast model.
Yeah, well, 20 years I've been waiting for it.
I know exactly.
And literally, I've been saying I want to go to a conference where you do something, where you make something. And there's sort of the maker things. Which of course is a great thing. The Mozilla conference was definitely a much more lively feel with activity going on. But there's the thing, and people fall back on is like, to get the travel justification to go to a conference, you have to present or do something that's publishable and that gets official sanction at the institution. So, but what they're doing there in Wisconsin is starting to work around the edges of that, and so hopefully that'll spread some.
Well, I'm involved in the organization of a conference, and we're having this conversation right now about it because it's clear that the publication is a driver for people, for people who've never sort of thought about conferences as being anything else, but also because they can't get the funding to come otherwise, so they need to publish. So how do you sort of give that dog that bone and make sure that they publish, but actually have an interesting conference at the same time rather than a sequence of droning presenters reading out their papers? And it occurred to us, slightly tongue-in-cheek, that it might be possible just to have a room with a video camera in it. And each of the people who's publishing can go and broadcast their paper to the internet at some point during the proceedings, and anyone who wants to can watch it. And then you've dealt with it. You've solved that problem. Meanwhile, you get on with other stuff like they're doing here in Wisconsin at the moment.
Well, there's something about that, but gosh, my brain just lost that thought of that you have to. People have tried things where like the papers are published before or the stuff is distributed before, and I'll be honest, I like the idea, but in action, I don't read the papers, So I think by being forced to sit there in an audience, you're being forced, you do the whole parallels with school, etc. But it's not an insurmountable problem.
Oh no,
I think this is also sort of a parallel what it means to be an academic. I'm not sure about what it means to be an academic in other countries, but it seems that in English-speaking countries or the traditions passed down from a European-centric model seem to be very publication-heavy. So your ideas don't have as much value or currency unless they are published in a peer-reviewed journal, but the quality of peer review is often a very mixed bag.
Yeah, and you hinted at something yesterday, I think, AK, about like going to something that's like outside your normal discipline or scope, conference-wise, is a little bit refreshing. But I was just thinking, like, this whole idea about the conference experience be focused on your presentation and what you do, and Facetoface, you go there. It's a little bit selfish in a way. I mean, to the collective of the people who show up at the conference, if everybody is there with this primary interest of the justification to do this piece of, it's like the syllabus, the content driving everything.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that these publications actually in the academic world are an important part of your professional identity, and there's a sense in which going to a conference is about validating yourself as an academic rather than anything else, and that to me links up to the idea of challenging the bio, the very idea that your shall we say your CV and your set of publications should be what defines you and makes you legitimate or not as a participant in a conference is I think it needs to be challenged, because very often it's the people who come from outside with a refreshing perspective that actually make the conversation not a repetition of last year's conference.
Got a little bit of buffering there. I don't know if it's my end or not, but I lost the last end of what you were saying, Nick, about the challenge. I was just thinking, though, it's so funny because we know very quickly when we meet people online in person how quick it is to find their online footprint, and so that's a whole other question about what we do to represent ourselves and reputation out there. And I still think it's funny that people will call me by my Twitter name, but I've gotten used to it, and so it's kind of funny, but in another way, it kind of works, and it's something that people think about. Hopefully, less in a sense of like, oh, I got to brand myself, and more about we get defined about what we do and how we're seen in public, and the work that we do and the work that we share rather than some fixed sort of entity of a CV.
The personal branding was a big fad, I would say, a few years ago, and I was looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, this is just your reputation. Why are you spending so much time worrying about the facade that you're putting up of what your reputation should be versus what it actually is? I think actions speak louder than words. So if you're going to be a troll, whether online or in person, then you're going to be a troll no matter how you personally brand yourself. It's just very interesting to see that whole personal branding thing take off like wildfire, it seems, and just me sitting on the sidelines saying, what are you guys doing?
You're kind of transparent.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, you can't control the stories people tell about you, however much you.
Well, and there is there is a dark side and a danger side, because there's things that you can't control, and that's where things get ugly, and we've seen a lot of it so far. So I always try to say you can't have like all the shiny stuff without all the possibility for all the bugs growing underneath the rocks.
True. Yeah, there's not much to be done with regard to that. I was interested in what they were saying about social justice. It linked to me to the thing that Maha posted the other day about the idea of a post-colonial MOOC, and how the way that when you start thinking how that would be, how would a post-colonial MOOC be, you start to think about all the people who are disenfranchised, who aren't actually here on the net in the same way as we are, either because they don't have access or because they don't have the shall we say, the experience of these spaces that allows them to participate fluidly and coherently as they would like to. And it made me think to how much identity is actually linked up to the literacies that you have, the ways in which you can present or perform your identity online are significantly constrained by all of that. And it seems to me that when you think about a post-colonial MOOC, you've got to start thinking about the identities of the people who would participate in that and how that can be facilitated. And the more I think about it, the more I think it means you have to break the whole mold of the way we are used to communicating and exchanging online. And I find that pretty fascinating. I'd be interested to find out what they've discussed in that third area, but I can't get into it.
So I still don't have the link right, so I hope someone gets that up. And also just the idea of I'm hoping that the social justice angle gets the thing about maybe school and education being more than the degree and whatever, where things have gotten turned into like this assembly line thing to get out and get your certification, as to people really taking on things that extend beyond the courses, etc., and also injecting something of an importance into something besides what you have to do to get a grade.
And of course, the thing that really comes to mind is what sort of like the signifiers and shoot, somebody's going to put me in linguistic purgatory for forgetting this, but the signs and their signifiers, signified and signified. Oh man, I'm definitely going to be in trouble with my department today.
They're not watching.
But looking at semiotics and looking, what does the degree actually signify? When I earn a bachelor's or a master's or a PhD, what does that actually mean? And I was thinking about the credit hour the other day, and it's like, well, it's just me banking credits, and it got me back to the banking model of education. I'm not just banking knowledge, I'm banking credits here. It's just, what does it all mean? And as somebody who works in academia, if I'm having a hard philosophical time wrapping my mind around this and thinking about it systematically, what does that say for students who are coming in to get an education to be able to do something with their degree? Signifier, signified.
Big topics. Well, I want to thank you both for sticking around. I don't know if Maha and Rebecca do this. I kind of like, it's like the no, I'm not going to use a sports analogy, but it's great to have this conversation after we've talked to the people at the event.
Yep.
Yep. Just to take it a little bit further or in a different direction. And so I appreciate you sticking around. So let's all, before I turn it off, let's all just say, "Hi, Maha, we miss you."
And Rebecca.
And Rebecca, of course.
Hi to both of you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot for joining us. End of the day for you folks in Europe, beginning of my day here. And I'm going to stop the broadcast as soon as I find the button. Okay. Thanks for tuning in to Virtually Connecting.
See you.